Hey guys, welcome back to Bridge Ministry, episode number 2. Still doing the virtual Sunday school class until further notice. But so just real quick, I want to recap what we talked about last week. We talked about our prayer life being more meaningful, more purposeful. Making sure that when we're spending that time with God, that we understand that we are approaching the throne of a holy God that loves us so much that He allows us into His presence. So I hope over the last week you guys have had a chance to really think about that, reflect on that, and I hope in doing so it's helped you to grow a little bit closer with God during this time. Today we're going to kind of expand upon the idea. We're going to talk about a subject a lot of people don't like to talk about, but I think if we ignore this particular subject, we're selling ourselves a little bit short in our relationship with God. And so, unfortunately, a lot of people in today's world will tell you that we live, we die, what's really the purpose? And so many people across our world are asking, what is the purpose? And quite frankly, it's sad to think there is no purpose, and it's against what God teaches us repeatedly. He tells us in Colossians 1:16 that for everything was created by Him in heaven and on earth, the visible and the invisible, whether thrones or dominions or rulers or authorities, all things have been created through Him and for Him. So not only does it teach us that we were created by Him, but we were created for Him. God wouldn't have created us for Him if He didn't have a purpose for our lives and for our individual days. Paul tells us again in Ephesians that for we are His creation, created in Christ Jesus for good works, which God prepared ahead of time so we would walk in them. So even before He made me, there was these things that He created for me to do. Clearly, it tells us over and over again that God created us for this purpose and His purpose in our daily lives. So if we're going to Him on a daily basis with a purposeful prayer, why don't we think about throwing in this idea of, hey God, can you show me what your purpose is, not only for my life, but what is your purpose for me today? And I know a lot of times as you guys are stepping out into the real world, for those of you that just graduated high school and you start to get caught up in the hustle and bustle of things, a lot of times you're going to find yourself saying, I'm too busy for that quiet time. I'm too busy to sit still and think about God. And I'm guilty of it, and I think a lot of people across this nation and across the world would tell you that they're guilty of those same thoughts. But maybe we're looking at this thing the wrong way. Maybe as Christians, we need to realize that we don't have time not to think about God. We can't afford not to think about God. You know, I'm sure you've all heard it said, and I know I've said it numerous times, that I'm not guaranteed tomorrow. I think as Christians, we all believe it and we all understand it. But do we really ever stop and think about the fact that we are not guaranteed tomorrow? We ever stop and think about the fact that literally today could be the day not only do you approach the throne in prayer, but you physically stand before the throne. You know, over my life, I've read the Bible and I've talked to God through prayer. I've had a relationship with God. But still, that deep, intense thought of what if today was really the day my faith becomes sight? If that doesn't resonate inside of you and make your heart stop for a second and think, then you have to really wonder how close you are with Him, in my opinion. You know, I think it's worth the time to think about that on a daily basis. And I know in America, and if you watch TV, any TV at this point, movies, anything, we really place this high regard in America on the physical body. We really place this attachment to our physical being. But if we're thinking about if today is actually the day we stand before the throne, that physical body is not that important. In fact, King Solomon tells us in Ecclesiastes that it's better to go to a house of mourning than to go to a house of feasting. since that is the end of all mankind, and the living should take it to heart. Now, you just read that at face value, and it's really kind of a morbid thought, and it's better to go to a house of mourning than go have a feast. But in all actuality, as Christians, it's a great thing, because at the end, it is just our body that dies. We have our hope and our salvation in Christ, and our soul goes on elsewhere. So as you go through this week, I really want you guys to reflect back on your life. And I just want you to think about, if today is the day you stand before God in His holy throne, what regrets would you have and why? Then I want you to think about, if today was that day, what would you change about your life to avoid those regrets going forward? So guys, hope you enjoyed today, and really want you to think about that this week, and I hope it helps you continue to grow closer in your walk with God.